If you compare beer with bratwurst,
and cheese with wine,
or even whiskey
with donuts,
then we think you can pair all of these delicious drinks with
murder,
conspiracies,
missing persons,
and more.
Drink with us as you feed your craving for true crime and creepy stories.
Hello.
Why, hello there.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm been looking forward to this next episode.
Me too.
I know very little about it, but I've seen how excited you are.
Oh, the story is ridiculous. I can't even. It started out as something very straightforward and just completely morphed into something that makes me not want to take our kids into the mountains ever.
Goodness. Great. More kid stuff. Yeah, you haven't told me really anything outside of kind of an area that it took place in, which also led to a river flowing out of it, which is the Poudre River.
The Poudre
River. I almost forgot that for a second. Yeah, Poudre River. So in Colorado, which is where we're at, we know of the Poudre River because it runs into Fort Collins, right?
Yeah, it absolutely runs through Fort Collins. Which is where another university in the state of Colorado is located, even though people might not realize Colorado University isn't the only one.
Yeah, there's another university really taking over.
I know. Poor CSU. It's okay, Rammies.
You know.
I'm still proud to be a CSU Ram.
Nobody expected this from CU. So who knows? CU maybe will find their prime, but...
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, so Poudre River is what you gave me. And Fort Collins is actually known for its microbrews. Colorado, in general, puts out a shit ton of beer. Everything from microbrews all the way to Coors, of course.
Coors Light.
A lot of Anheuser-Busch actually comes from Colorado too, even though it didn't start here. There is a, brewery up there in Fort Collins, Loveland area. So anyway, I figured it would only be proper that we pick something that actually gets some of its water from the Poudre River, which is a lot of microbrews up there, but the biggest one is good old New Belgium.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, New Belgium is probably one of the biggest.
It's a FOCO staple.
Yeah, it's really put Colorado microbrews on the map nationally. And today we're actually going to drink one of those beers that did put it on the map nationally way back in, and I might get this wrong because I'm not looking at my notes right now, but I do believe it was back in like 1993 or something like that. I should probably check that. But anyway.
Our fact checker is out this week, so it's okay if we get it wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it at the same time. Why didn't I bring this up earlier? Not really an important matter here, but they started with Fat Tire, and that's what we're going to drink today is Fat Tire. It's a really good beer. So we'll just crack these open and we'll talk about it for a second.
It gets its name because of bike tires.
Yep.
That's where Fat Tire comes from. I took a tour one time.
Oh, nice.
I did.
I have not been able to take a tour.
There's even a bike on the label.
Well, a lot of Colorado's known for
sun.
its biking. And Fort Collins in particular and Boulder are very, very much bike-friendly cities. And the creator of New Belgium, he was an avid biker. So it kind of makes sense that this would be his first beer, or their first beer. It might have been a couple. So if I remember right, this is an amber beer, I do believe. So a little reddish in tint. And it says it blends a subtle malt presence with a slightly fruity hop profile and a crisp finish. It creates a bright and balanced beer that drinks easy anywhere. I would agree with that. It is. It's a light, crisp beer, but it also has the full flavor of like an amber type of beer. It's not, a Coors Light or anything.
See, it feels a little bit heavier in my mouth. So like the crisp flower notes, I don't get. It feels like something I would want to drink when it's cold outside, as opposed to something that I would want to drink when the sun is like shining. So I would drink this watching football in December.
Interesting.
Because it feels full.
I think it's got a little bit of that light, crisp fruit to it. But that's the difference between somebody that drinks beer a lot and somebody that doesn't. So if you want a darker beer, you'll go to like an amber. If I want a darker beer, I'll go to a stout or a porter.
Yep. No, I would consider this a darker beer for me.
Yeah. You used to that light stuff.
Yeah, I like the light stuff. Although I think this would be nice on a cold day, right? If you're eating a bowl of chili, watching a football game, this would be perfect.
I honestly think it's a great beer for anytime, summer, winter.
And it comes from the Poudre River.
The Poudre River.
A taste of Colorado.
Well, what are you going to tell us about something that happened around the Poudre River? I'm very interested.
Let's start with the location.
Okay.
So the Comanche Peak Wilderness is located in the northwest corner of Colorado. This nearly 67,000-acre area, situated in the Roosevelt National Forest, boasts a rugged landscape that accommodates a variety of pine trees and spruce fir forests, all nestled below an expansive alpine tundra. The Poudre Canyon cuts through this almost untouched land, the powerful Poudre River snaking its way through the lush green surroundings. Saturday, October 2nd, 1999, would turn out to be an almost perfect fall day weather-wise, or as the natives might say, it was a bluebird day in the Colorado mountains. Alan Atadero and his two children, Jocelyn, who is 6, and Jarod, who is 3, spent the early morning at the Poudre River Resort, a comfortable mountain destination owned by Alan and his brother Arlen. Judging by the picturesque nature of the day, I don't think anyone at the resort could have predicted the nightmare that would unfold later that afternoon. Also staying at the resort that fall was a Christian singles group who, in exchange for their lodging, was helping the brothers prepare the resort for the long, cold, and at times unforgiving Colorado winter. That morning at 10 o'clock, 11 members of the Christian singles group decided that they wanted to go visit a trout hatchery, which was located 1.5 to 2 miles from the resort.
A trout hatchery? Is that a farm?
Yeah, it's a farm.
Trout farm?
Where baby trouts are hatched.
Oh.
When Jocelyn expressed an interest in tagging along, Alan had zero concerns. It was when young Jarod asked to go that Alan developed some reservations. One of my resources claimed that one of the members of the singles group was actually Alan's girlfriend, and in interviews, Alan himself had stated that he was fairly close to a few members of the group. So in the end, Alan gave young Jarod permission to go along as well.
Oh, so I guess if you're not married, you could be a Christian single?
Yeah, but I think you also have to be a Christian.
Well, if you're dating somebody, I don't think you're single, but...
I see.
Yeah.
Well, Alan was divorced. His wife wasn't on the resort that day, or at the resort that day.
Oh.
Which is why I think he could have a girlfriend.
Okay.
So it was that Jarod put on his Tarzan shoes, but just like he always had done, refused to tie them. It was with loose shoelaces that Jarod walked out the door. After the group left, his 2 young children in tow, Alan eventually sat down to watch some football. And on that beautiful fall day, he fell asleep listening to the game, which I know is one of your favorite things to do in the whole wide world.
Oh, it's that white noise of the crowd. It just makes me want to doze. But I also don't if it's my team, but then I end up doing it.
Unsure of exactly how long it was after he nodded off to sleep, Alan was awakened by a knock on the door and a voice telling him news that would change his life forever. Something had happened to Jarod. I know. As Alan got into his vehicle and followed the directions to where Jarod was last seen, Alan remembers screaming out, "Where are we going?" He was still under the impression that his 2 young children had only been, at most, 2 miles away visiting a fish farm. Alan was shocked then to find out that the group of 11 adults and 2 children actually made the 15 to 16 mile drive up the road to hike along the Big South Trail instead.
What the heck?
Right?
You kidding?
And it was somewhere on this trail that 3-year-old Jarod would be seen for the very last time. As he drove, Alan repeated, "They lost my baby. They lost my baby."
He's 3?
He's 3. Just wait.
What?
I'm going to just let you hold on to them.
A 3-year-old can't hike.
Well, apparently this kid is amazing because just hear
but even so,
allegedly
his
what
legs
happened.
are a foot long.
And his shoelaces are untied. No, I can't get my kids to walk to the mailbox. So
I remember like when our kids were 3, there would be times where, somebody invited us hiking and you always look down at him and you're like, that dude is covering 6 inches at a time.
The pace at which they would move would be excruciating.
And then you have to pick them up after 2 minutes.
100%.
And carry them the rest of the way.
Yeah, just wait. Just wait. According to Bill Nelson.
I already don't like these Christians.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
These ones.
According to Bill Nelson, the Larimer County Undersheriff, the large group arrived at their designated parking location, parked their vehicles at the trailhead, and from there they began the trek up along the trail. As the group moved, it naturally split into 2 groups, a faster moving group and a slower one. There seems to have been only one adult who took responsibility for both children. I'm assuming that's the girlfriend. According to all of the reports from the events that morning, after hiking over 1.5 miles, young Jarod was definitely out ahead of not only the one adult who was supposed to be watching him, but at least one of the other groups of adults as well. Little Jarod.
Say that one more time.
3-year-old legs.
Jarod was
out ahead, running.
Ahead.
On this trail, beating the adult who should have been watching him, and at least one of the groups of grown adults whose legs were longer than probably his entire body.
Well, yeah.
And Jarod's just out there after 1.5 miles of hiking, still putting those people to shame.
I don't know if I believe that.
Butch Shining, a friend of Alan, described the trail the group was traversing as follows. Quote, "The trail is moderate with ups and downs. You could take kids on the hike as long as you kept them in line and hung on to them. There are some areas with 24-inch wide ledges. There is loose shale, which is like fossil rock, all the way down the river with numerous rock fields, which literally are these expanses of land on a hill that is just thousands upon thousands of loose rocks."
We know what that's like.
Yeah, we do. We almost died as grown-ups.
What did they call it? A loose rock field?
So there's loose shale, which is actually when like layered rock starts to break apart. And you have these like almost fish scale thin pieces of rock.
Right.
And then rock fields, which are just
rock fields.
A variety of sized rocks making up the side of a mountain.
Yeah. We've tried to hike up. Well, we did hike up one.
Oh, we were successful. We almost died.
It's like once you went so far, you had to keep
There was
going.
no choice.
It's, dangerous if you go down on one of those.
At around 11:30 a.m., 2 fishermen reported having encountered Jarod. The 2 men remembered noticing that the group of adults was only 50 to 80 feet behind the young boy. Jarod asked the men if there were bears in the area, and after the brief encounter, both men returned to fishing. This interaction took place near one of the 16 backcountry campsites, which are all situated along the trail. It was campsite number 2. What isn't super clear is whether Jarod was sandwiched in between the fast group and the slow group, or if he was ahead of both groups by himself. Either way, I find it somewhat interesting that the young boy, who was 3, was ahead of any grown adults on a fairly precarious trail after having already hiked over a mile.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I've never met a 3-year-old that could do that. Also,
I've never met a 5-year-old that could do that.
These other hikers that
the fishermen,
did they witness? Like that's their testimony that
they chatted with young Jarod, and they looked down and saw this group of adults following him, and then they just turned around and fished.
Unless he just is like absurdly big for his age. I don't know. If I'm an adult and I look at a 3-year-old that's that far, 50 to 80 feet.
I wouldn't take my eyes off of him.
I would stay. I'd be, hey, buddy, stay with us for a second. We're going to let them catch up with you.
There were fish to be caught,
You shouldn't be here.
They needed to catch their fish.
That's not our problem.
Excuse me, child. We're fishing. I don't even know if they answered his question. Those jerks.
They're just like, and they kept trotting along. They had really. They were like, it might have been like 150 yards. I'm not sure. We just need to get to the hole.
Let's be real. It's Colorado. The fishermen could have been on some legal, not legal drugs. They might not even thought Jarod was real.
What year was this?
I already told you, 1999.
No, you have to remember. Everybody knows. You have to remind me of things a couple times. All right, so 1999. Yeah, that could have been.
Could have just been a real good day in the mountains for them.
Yeah.
Drinking some Fat Tire.
Oh, yeah. Or more than likely. They're a couple beers deep in by that time.
Mm-hmm. They actually get away from their life to go fishing. They're probably like, what is this little kid doing? Get out.
One on the walk. Maybe 2.
On the precarious hike all the way up.
10 at the fishing hole.
12. Each a 12-pack.
Still get home safe.
Because they're good at drinking at elevation.
That's right.
It wasn't until 45 minutes later that the group would realize that Jarod was missing. The group searched for about an hour on their own in an effort to locate the boy. When no signs of the boy were found, some members of the group went back to tell Alan. In my mind, I literally picture his girlfriend freaking out, having to knock on her boyfriend's door to tell him that she lost his kid. And I think that's where they stopped. I have no idea. It didn't go into detail. These are little tidbits that I fill in. Allegedly. This is what I think happened. And then she probably became his ex-girlfriend.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah.
Bitch, you did what?
Yeah. That was the end of that romance.
Yeah. And it probably almost went from a missing person. Missing child to plus murder.
Aggravated homicide.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Even if you lost one of our kids.
I mean, it might be suicide.
Oh, because you're afraid?
Yeah, I just feel that bad.
It'd be awful. I can't even. So once Alan arrived at the Big South Trail, several group members reported to him that they had heard a scream. Even Jocelyn, Jarod's sister, told her father that she too had heard this scream. When Alan asked her what kind of scream it was, she described this scream as a playful kind of scream, almost like Jarod screamed out in surprise right before getting tagged during a game. After searching fruitlessly to find Jarod, Alan returned to the lodge at 4 p.m. to call 911. It wasn't until 6:30.
Wait, no one's called 911 by this point?
I think perhaps some of the Christian singles did call 911, but I think it probably was a situation of, well, we're looking for him. Like the SOS alert didn't go out until Alan called at 4 p.m.
These people stupid or what?
Are
you kidding me?
I don't know. Let me check my sources. Are these people stupid?
They have cell phones at this point.
I actually came across the statistic that children right around this age, if they get lost in the mountains, are usually found within a few hours, within 1/4 of a mile from where they disappear.
I still would be calling 911 right away.
I would be running through the woods screaming my children's name like a crazy person. That's what I would be doing.
But you tell the other people to call 911.
As I ran through the woods like a crazy person screaming my child's name. It would be the worst.
And then we have to find you.
In all of the world. No, you wouldn't lose me. I'd be tearing trees down.
Be able to follow your path all the way.
Or turn into Sasquatch.
Find little man, and then where's your mom?
Kate? She's up there. Do you hear that? She's on top of the mountain. Screaming.
Oh, see, that tree just fell down. That's her. That's her.
Yep, she's going to find you. It's terrifying to think about. It wasn't until 6:30 p.m. that night that search personnel reached the lower Big South trailhead. At the time the search commenced, there were 65 search and rescue members. At 8 p.m. that night, the team of searchers that left from the lower Big South Trail met up with a team of searchers that started above the trail, and they met at campsite 7 and 8. Neither team located any sign of missing Jarod. The next morning, an Air Force helicopter from Warren Air Force Base, which is in Cheyenne, which is in Wyoming, which is a state due north of Colorado, arrived at 7 a.m. to join the search. Then, as if the situation needed just a little bit more tragedy, that afternoon around 3:30 p.m., after refueling, the helicopter began struggling with the fuel load. And that, in combination with the challenging mountain conditions, it stalled out mid-flight and crashed down onto the Big South Trail.
What?
All 5 members who were aboard the helicopter were transported to the hospital, 2 of which had sustained serious injuries.
But nobody died.
Nobody died.
Oh my gosh. I kept waiting. I thought you were going to say all 5 members.
They all died.
Tragically died on impact.
No. I think there were 4 members of the Air Force and 1 member of search and rescue who didn't wear a helmet, who wasn't in a seat, who was like a legit badass, who was like, I'm going to have these headphones on.
He's hanging out.
Literally, Jarod.
Yeah.
Jarod.
Like he's just holding on to the bitch bar inside.
And this is why you wear a seatbelt no matter what you're in, because all the other dudes were able to climb out. And this motherfucker had to get like removed from the helicopter. He had like broken bones in his back. He broke his face. Like, poor guy. He survived. But wear your seatbelts, people.
Lucky. Good.
It was ridiculous. Just wait.
So they obviously didn't find Jarod.
Just wait.
Because
I can't even handle the ridiculousness that is about to happen. The search continued on October 4th. A second helicopter attempted to join the search that day. This helicopter came from Geosize Helicopter, which is in Fort Collins, which is located about 60 miles to the east. And it too strangely struggled to maneuver through the swirling mountain winds and had to retire. It couldn't continue searching.
Is there something about the mountains there that you saw where it's just like the way they're shaped, you get these odd...
Nope. And we literally watched a documentary after an earthquake on Mount Everest. Helicopters were able to come in and retrieve people. So I don't...
But they did have to be careful depending on what the weather was. They couldn't go in at certain times because of what winds would do.
Okay.
So they did say that on that documentary. So it's a thing.
I believe it.
All right. It's because I know you're going to go with something like there's
something's happening.
There's a curse upon these mountains.
Something. There's a curse on the mountains. Now, at the time, so October 4th, the searches seemed to focus on the riverbanks and the steep slopes. Dive teams were used to search the small water pools of the slower moving parts of the river. And a plane replaced helicopters and was used to continue searching from the sky. From October 5th to October 7th, the search carried on with over 200 searchers scouring the rugged terrain and vast wilderness. Dog teams were used to track Jarod's scent. Professional trackers looked for prints and signs of Jarod amongst nature, and the plane continually made passes searching from the air. Now, at some point during this time period, it was reported that not only were mountain lion prints found, but also prints of a child near the mountain lion prints. However...
It was reported?
A tracker thought he saw some prints.
Oh, so there's like no pictures.
No, I picture this
child prints.
So I picture him. I picture him wearing like a mountain man outfit, and he's like
Jarod or
the man who found the prints, and he's like, I found prints, and he's like following them, but
he looks like Robert Redford, and
he's scraggly.
That one movie. Damn it!
Scraggly beard, scraggly hair.
What was that movie?
I have no idea.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm just picturing my dad in his like coyote hat and his like jacket with fringe.
Johnson.
That's exactly what I'm picturing. However, when Colorado Division of Wildlife officials were called to further inspect the prints, they determined that it was just as likely that the child prints, and I'm doing air quotes, were actually from a bear. So good job, Jeremiah Johnson.
A bear?
Yeah.
I feel like Jeremiah Johnson is in the wrong field, or he needs to do a little more studying, a little more tracking.
He's not even the weirdest that are going to show up.
Gosh.
This episode of the Perfectly Paired With podcast is brought to you by J&L Professional Detail. I used to think that paying to have your car cleaned was only for the serial killers among us, looking to eliminate the evidence of their crimes. But that all changed when, as a gift, my husband hired J&L Professional Detail to clean the disaster that was my car. J&L was fast, thorough, and the results were mind-blowing. Find them on Facebook to schedule your interior or exterior service today. During this time, the search for Jarod was a 24-hour endeavor. At night, people would be stationed around the area where Jarod went missing, constantly calling out and listening for a response to come out of the darkness. And still, not a single clue was discovered. The case of missing Jarod drew the attention of national media teams, as well as some more interesting members of society, all looking to help locate the boy. Multiple psychics reached out, claiming to know what happened to Jarod. A barefooted man and his mule made an appearance, ready to join the search. There was even a Native American man who would perform a ritual asking the mountain to give back the boy. But despite the impressive and somewhat not so impressive, I'm talking to you, man with a mule, effort made to find missing Jarod, it was clear that he had disappeared without a trace or any single clue left behind. So it was
What town is around here? Because it's interesting that they basically get kind of a sideshow circus.
Oh,
to search for this guy.
Or
little guy.
I didn't even go into details. The searchers who were in charge of the dogs talked about that. They were like, our dogs were so out of sorts because all of the commotion that was happening, because it was a big deal. There were media vans. Can you just imagine parked along this mountain road trying to capture footage? A plane is crashing from the sky. Another plane the next day is wobbly flying. Helicopters. Yeah. Dang. A helicopter's crashing. A man shows up with a mule. An Native American.
I imagine.
We should go back so I can say that again. I called him an Indian.
You were on a good roll there.
I know.
That's all right.
We'll leave it in.
We make mistakes.
American Indian.
Yeah, we're not Christopher Columbus. I'm like, where am I? Looks like India to me.
Although I can't tell you the city, so maybe we don't know where we are.
Yeah, we really don't.
I don't know if it's in a city.
You said north
or a town.
Northwest Colorado?
60 miles west of Fort Collins. So it really is this corner. It's closer to Wyoming than it is Denver.
Hans Peak Village.
What was
I feel like that's
there
a
were
little further
several there were several 14ers. I wish I could remember one. They're in my notes, but I wasn't going to bore people with that information.
Oh, yeah.
But it literally was probably a scene out of a stupid movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I did bring up this monitor. Our studio got all fancy here. We added a monitor that both Katie and I can look at.
No, it was ridiculous. They were talking about
Comanche?
how Comanche Wilderness.
So Comanche Wilderness is, let's look at this in comparison to, can we just get a map? There we go.
No, it's not great. Believe you me. Spent days looking at it.
Oh, did you?
There's no good map.
Weird. Is it just a tiny wilderness? It's not even a forest, it's a wilderness. Huh?
No, it's inside Roosevelt National Park.
Oh, this isn't far from Fort Collins at all. Wow. Yeah, when you said 60 miles, I didn't think very far, but I was also like, I don't know, maybe 60 miles in the mountains goes a lot further. But we should know better than that, considering we just drove 300 miles to get to a certain part of Colorado.
No, it's not far.
No, it's not far at all. Look at that. There's Fort Collins. There's where this happened. Yeah, for those, obviously, everybody that can't see, it's
No, not that
so
they can't see.
If you
They
look
can't
at the
see
state
us.
of Colorado, just from afar,
It's actually not far to like a.
They look like right next to
an
each other.
actual
That's
city.
how close they are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those that know Colorado, basically, it's Fort Collins to Longmont. That's the distance.
However, it isn't straight highway driving. It's like mountain.
No, it's and these are
pretty
big,
treacherous
these are
terrain.
big mountains right here too.
It's the big mountains.
They're mountains.
They're not foothills.
No, they're not.
And
they're not,
everybody who doesn't live in Colorado just stopped listening.
yeah, they're not Eagle County mountains. Gosh, we're going too long about that.
Cripple Creek.
Sorry, you guys.
Okay.
So,
any which way, it's
not
a
all
disaster.
mountains are equal in Colorado.
You have helicopters crashing. You've got Native Americans doing rituals. You've got a barefoot
Clowns
man
on
and his
stilts
mule.
looking around.
Probably.
Dogs looking
They
everywhere.
literally, I read a resource that said searchers were being removed from the mountain on stretchers because they were getting injured, just looking for Jarod. So you have these bodies coming down. It's just the most bizarre story. All right. On October 8th, the search was suspended, and the family was notified that no longer were people going to be searching for Jarod.
Can you remind us how far after this is now?
6 days? 5 days? 6 days? 6 days. They searched for 6 days, 24 hours.
Seems
Which,
short.
that's what I thought until I started looking into other missing persons in the mountains, missing kids. It's about 6 days. That's about average. Then,
I'd never stop searching.
yeah, me neither. Then, over 3 years later, hiking partners Rob Osborne and Gary Watt were expertly navigating a rock field, trying to traverse up 2,000 feet in elevation gain, both so focused on each step that their feet were taking, you and I know,
We mentioned you have to be.
that they could not see the small objects waiting for them at the top, just longing to be discovered. Once safe at the top, both men decided to venture off trail and immediately stumbled upon what they knew were pieces of the lost boy's clothing. See, both men had hiked the area before, even having conversations about what could have happened to young Jarod Atadero. Now, this point was physically 550 feet higher than the last time the boy was seen. Rob specifically remembers seeing Jarod's pristine, shiny white Tarzan shoe for the first time. The other shoe was found next to a brown fleece jacket and blue sweatpants that were turned inside out. It appeared as though one pant leg had been pulled apart strand by strand by birds or other small vermin.
But it was inside out?
Yes, it was inside out.
He took them off or somebody else did?
Yes. These two hikers immediately photographed the evidence they found and took the pictures to the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. Alan, who was at home in Littleton, Colorado, received an email containing photographs of the items found, and he instantly knew these were the last pieces of clothing his son had ever worn. It took searchers 1 hour to hike up and reach campsite number 2, which is where Jarod interacted with the fishermen, where they found the remaining clothing scattered across a 25-foot area.
At that campsite?
It seemed as though some of these items had been exposed to the elements while others had been sheltered. At the discovery of the jacket, it was reported that the jacket had puncture wounds. But I'm going to tell you, I watched a documentary called Missing 411, which is based on a book. And in that documentary, Alan, Jarod's father, displays this jacket. And I didn't see a single remarkable puncture wound. Not one.
So it's like police documentation that has puncture wounds?
Mm-hmm.
What?
On June 14th, 2003, hikers would hike again the 1.5 miles and then make the vertical 500-foot climb up a rock field to search where the hikers had found the clothing. That morning at 11:30, searchers discovered a skull fragment. So it was the skull minus the jawbone in a crevice.
But you said a fragment.
Because it didn't have the jawbone.
Oh, so it is a full skull then.
Mm-hmm. And they found a single tooth, simply sitting, shining white, near the skull, but on top of a log. These items were found 180 feet north and 20 feet higher than where the clothing was found. A law enforcement member involved in the search would state that canine dogs absolutely alerted in the direction of where the clothes and the pieces of bone were found. And in that case, both areas most assuredly would have been searched during those 6 days of searching.
Wow. So the suggestion with that statement is they think all this evidence was put there after the search.
Oh, no. They think something completely different that makes no sense, which is why we're telling the story now. Just wait.
But literally, that's what you're saying by going on the air and saying, hey, we absolutely looked there during the search.
He basically
there
was like...
There was nothing there during the search.
We searched it, and I don't know why we didn't find the items. Others have commented that it would have been the helicopter, the one that crashed on day 2, that would have been responsible for searching the areas where those clues would have eventually have been found.
So it's possible nobody actually even searched that because the helicopter that was supposed to, those pilots suck. Well, they didn't suck. They're Air Force. Sorry, military.
Or
the
they're
wind
just,
sucked.
Or they're just saying that because some guy went on a documentary and was like, no, we probably searched it because dogs alerted that his scent was up there. And so they came out with a statement. That's probably where the helicopter would have been searching. Thank you so much. That's how I would talk if I was in a press conference. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
You would definitely be rehired for that job. That's our PR person from now on.
No, they would have been like, who hired her in the first place?
Where'd she come from?
I did. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Now, abduction was obviously considered by law enforcement from the first day Jarod went missing. But when all of the plausible suspects were questioned, each and every one was cleared. Jarod's father, the fisherman, the members of the singles group, including former ex-girlfriend, even his mother, who wasn't in the location at the same time, were all cleared. And if a stranger had found him, the only way down from the mountain would have been the same path he had already walked, taking him and the perpetrator right past the group of Christian singles, who in my mind are singing all those old church songs while they walk.
Them old hymnals.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what line of questioning was used, because, I mean, you already have these fishermen come across this boy, like, oh, he was only this amount of feet from here to here, and I mean, obviously, it was pretty damn far. Like, I feel like any normal adult would be like, hey, boy,
why don't you hang out with us till we find you a grown-up? Because it's not safe here.
You're on this little tiny path. We know this path pretty well. Like, it's not a good place for a kid to be alone. And
especially considering they're fishing in a river.
Yeah. I don't know. My whole point is I imagine, because of that interaction, the whole way the whole circus has played out on this search, they probably were cleared with the statement of, well, we came across this boy and he was about, 80 to 125 feet away from the other people over there, and we just went on fishing.
It's probably a little
like,
bit more
you're good to go.
complicated.
we don't suspect. They probably all know each other.
Evidence,
well,
though.
Billy Bob. Yeah, I don't have any other
This
other
isn't
questions for you.
Appalachia, America. Nobody's named Billy Bob. Nobody's best friends. There has to be evidence that corresponds. Like, these fishermen would have, they probably searched their vehicles. I don't know. They're not guilty. Leave them alone.
That's weird stuff. Them mountains are cursed, so you never know what those people will be like.
You say that like it's a joke. Now, if you ask Rob and Butch, the two people who were hiking and found his clothing, they both emphatically state that there is no way a 3-year-old boy could have ever made it to the top of that rock field.
Yeah.
And it was similar thinking by law enforcement that brought them to what will become their prevailing theory. According to law enforcement, Jarod was grabbed by a mountain lion and pulled up that rock, 500 feet of an incline. It is thought then that the mountain lion, due to the commotion of the search, buried Jarod in the ground and returned for him later. So for 45 minutes, he's just like hanging out with Jarod at the top of the mountain.
Bullshit.
And then buries him.
Oh, are you kidding me? What about the blood? Where's all the blood on all the clothing?
Thank you for bringing that up. Here we go. Buckle in. In fact, Jarod's autopsy indicates that the cause of death is uncertain, but most likely due to a mountain lion attack. Now, I don't think this would be an episode of Perfectly Paired With if that's where it ended.
No, it wouldn't. Also,
Alan?
Since we're all, part of the times we got a screen here, just like, good podcasts do. These are the clothes you looked at, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm looking at a picture from the Coloradan. They show the clothes laid out just as the boy would have worn them, in order.
Should we say spoiler alert now? Because I'm just about to talk about it.
Oh, are you? Okay. Go ahead. I'll finish what I'm saying after you say what you're saying.
Let me just introduce it, and then you can describe what you see.
Perfect.
So Alan had his son's clothing tested for blood, hairs, and DNA. Anything that would conclusively provide an answer as to what happened to Jarod on that fall day in the mountains. And this is what the CBI determined. There was no mountain lion hair on any of the pieces of clothing. There was no DNA or blood evidence on any of the pieces of clothing. Alan then contacted wildlife experts with specialized knowledge in mountain lion attacks. They told Alan that mountain lions go for the stomach, and if Jarod had been attacked by a mountain lion, there is no way his jacket would have survived unless someone had removed it first.
Can I describe it
now? You may describe what you see on the computer screen.
I see why you wanted me to wait.
You get so excited.
I do.
Tamper that. Oof. I got a story to tell.
No, I can't believe there's so much left. I could just
keep going.
Be disgusted here and end it. So like I said, they're laid out. You've got the pants. I mean, there's two parts. The pants look like they were attacked by some sort of animal, but that could be over time too.
No. They concluded that pant leg was like birds or vermin taking out strand
so there's a
by
whole
strand
pant leg
by strand.
Missing. They probably found strands of it around too to be able to be like, no, this is just
stuff like that.
There's a knee. So when you just look at it, you're like, oh, that does look like an attack. 0 blood on it. 0 anywhere.
So if a mountain lion had ripped the pant leg off, it probably would have included the leg. No blood.
No blood.
0.
There's 0 chance that there'd be no blood.
And you tell me where that puncture wounds are in that jacket.
Well, I mean, it's kind of far away. I can't tell. Puncture wounds, though.
Listen, salty eyes. Get close.
We can't explain that.
We're not going to.
It's our own little thing. There's no way to tell on this, and maybe you saw a closer picture, but puncture wounds could simply be, again, like birds taking little bits and pieces from something.
That jacket is completely
puncture
intact.
wound should include like
that
a
jacket,
blood spot around it.
There would have been DNA. They found no DNA, which means Jared's blood did not spill out on any of that clothing.
Right, exactly.
None.
And the last thing with what you just said that I'm looking at,
his shoes.
His shoes are pure
brand
white,
new,
like crazy. Like you just picked them up from the store.
And his dad would point out that if he was wearing his shoes untied, nobody tied his shoes. That was not what Jarod did. And he got pulled 500 feet being dragged by a mountain lion. One of those shoes would have scuff marks. Would have come off. Would have been found.
Well, in the mountain lion thing,
searches.
Boop, you're gone. Like if they're attacking belly at the middle of a creature that they're attacking,
no,
everything is fine around the belt line, around the stomach, on the shirt. Wild.
Another thing that plagued Alan's mind was the fact that Jared's pants were turned inside out, as though they had been pulled off of him. Something that mountain lions most assuredly wouldn't do.
No, unless they got thumbs somehow. I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, me neither. Jared's family had to move on despite any lingering questions they may still have had. Every year, his family celebrates his birthday on January 2nd with a birthday cake. And when his sister got married during the summer of 2018, she placed a Raiders hat on his chair to save her little brother's spot with his favorite football team.
What? He's a Raiders fan?
Yeah, he's a Raiders fan.
I mean, it's hard to be mad at
a missing 3-year-old child.
But I don't like it. You do, though. I know
Just
that.
Just win, baby.
All right. Yeah, well, for anybody that doesn't know, which is, well, those that aren't our friends that listen to this podcast.
Isn't anybody who listens to this podcast?
Yeah, probably.
It's just our friends.
Probably just our friends, so we probably don't need to say it. But hey, just in case. Katie is a diehard Raiders fan.
Die hard.
It drives me nuts. We keep our marriage together. I am a diehard Broncos fan. And
we work really hard at keeping our marriage together.
Yeah.
Especially during football season.
And if you don't know, that's divisional rivalries.
And if you don't know, we don't want to talk to you anyway. Yeah. So
that's not true. We love you all. All 12 of our friends that are listening.
Yeah.
Just kidding. There's more people than that.
Okay. Shout out to Amanda and Joel for listening.
Oh, hey, there
Thank you for listening.
Amanda and Joel, thank you. Mid-podcast shout out. Goodness. That's
we're
big time.
We're ramping up to the climax, the end.
Oh, of this part.
This
one?
part. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So, but for his dad, remembering Jarod is about remembering their favorite song, which I know you will love. It is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
Oh, that's my favorite song.
Oh.
Man, all right. I can look past the Raiders stuff for that.
Now, there are some lyrics I find a little bit interesting considering the context of Jarod's story. For example, so you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain. Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail? A smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell? After that October day, I don't think Alan can tell the difference between the heaven of a Colorado hike from the hell that he has endured every moment since he heard the news that his son was lost. I also don't think he can separate the beautiful blue sky from his never-ending pain. And I think that if he could say one thing to Jarod, it just might be, wish you were here.
Man.
Now, perhaps for most people, accepting the mountain lion story is enough. But what if I told you that there are only 14 confirmed fatal mountain lion attacks in all of recorded history for the United States and Canada?
Whoa. For North America.
For North America. And what if I reminded you...
Mexico's in there. I don't know if they have mountain lions, but...
I don't know. I have the worst jokes running through my head right now.
Mexico has 50. We're just going to leave that out.
I don't think they have mountains.
Whenever the NFL plays in New Mexico, it's higher altitude, so
I don't know.
Maybe.
And what if I reminded you that this alleged mountain lion attack left no blood, hair, or DNA evidence anywhere on Jarod's clothing or the surrounding landscape? And what if I told you that the total time for Jarod to completely disappear without a trace would have been less than 15 minutes in a terrain that grown-ups would have struggled to maneuver, let alone a 3-year-old boy? And that when helicopters, which could have easily searched the area where items would eventually be found, could not manage to stay in flight long enough, despite the confidence of the pilots in the crafts that they were flying. And what if I told you that there are other stories of children, just like Jarod, who disappeared in almost an instant, never leaving a trace. And if any evidence were ever found, it was years later in areas that would have been searched multiple times.
How many?
Well, I found 4, but that was because I decided to stop looking. So I have 4 stories to tell you.
4?
Yeah, 4. And you know what they say? If 1's an incident, 2's a coincidence, and 3's a pattern, what's 4? Well, in this case, it's one fucking creepy theory.
Oh, God. All right.